Those who do not keep the unity of the church, but rather divide it with discord, are separated from the church. And these heretics and schismatics cannot claim to have Christ when they act in opposition to Christ's priests and separate themselves from Christ's clergy, contending against God's appointments in the church. Such people are enemies and rebels, disobedient and despising bishops, and forsaking God's priests, setting up false and rival altars, prayers, and sacrifices, deserving of punishment. Like Clement of Rome before him, Cyprian then gives Old Testament examples, the forerunners of the rebels in his own day. He points to Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, and how they opposed Moses and Aaron and underwent immediate punishment for their sedition, along with 250 of their supporters. Cyprian believes their punishment is a warning to all wicked, willful men who try to overthrow God's appointment, and a demonstration that such rebellion is in opposition to God. It is no surprise that Catholic contemporaries of and apologists against Martin Luther and other Protestant leaders often aptly compared Luther and Protestant leaders to Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Cyprian also uses the example of King Uzziah, who usurped the function of the priesthood and was struck with leprosy, and the example of the sons of Aaron, who offered strange fire on the altar and were themselves consumed by fire, by God unto death. Bottom line, those who threaten the unity of God's people and the authority of God's chosen leaders who provide that unity are subject to punishment. Sometimes savage dogs, venomous serpents, or cruel beasts find their way into the church, and it is good to separate them from the church before they lay waste to the church. The discordant and faithless do not maintain unity, and without any divine arrangement, set themselves to preside over others, and appoint themselves prelates without any law of ordination, who assume the title of bishop or leader without being given it by anyone. This sounds like what happened with the original Protestant leaders and many Protestant ministers throughout history till today. The whole point of apostolic succession is that someone else ordains you and sends you, and that someone can trace their own succession back to the apostles. Cyprian says that what Christ said to the apostles, he also said to all the chief rulers of the church who succeed the apostles by vicarious ordination. And what does Christ say? Cyprian quotes Luke 10:16, where Christ says, "He who hears you hears me, and he who rejects you rejects me, and he who rejects me rejects him who sent me." And then Cyprian bluntly says, the bishop is one, and the bishop rules over the church. And yet, heretics and schismatics treat the bishop with contempt and dishonor out of pride and arrogance. And then Cyprian gets even more blunt and explicit, saying, the bishop is in the church, and the church in the bishop. And if anyone be not with the bishop, that one he is not in the church. The church, which is Catholic and one, is not cut nor divided. and that Christ rules the church by and through his prelates, his clergy. These statements are reminiscent of Ignatius's strong language about the role of the bishop as the representative of God on earth and the necessity to be in union with him. In this letter, Cyprian quotes the end of John chapter 6, where some of Jesus' disciples leave him because of his bread of life discourse. And he quotes it as an example of Christians who leave Christ and the church. Interestingly, Cyprian refers to Peter here as the one on whom the church was built, and as one teaching in the name of the church. But his main point here is that even though a rebellious and arrogant multitude disobey and depart, the church still remains one and united to Christ. Cyprian says, "They are the church who are united to the priest and pastor." Though Cyprian more frequently refers to heretics and schismatics departing the church or separating themselves from the church, it is also clear from his writings that he believes the church can formally recognize that self-separation through excommunication, as we'll see.